couldn't be bothered carrying a guitar around. I did that for years. So that's all I'm going to say for the meantime. And if you guys have any questions for all of us, shoot it, and that way we can sort of guide your interest a bit. But I'm going to hand you over to Zerafina.
I think it's a really interesting thing. I've been speaking to a few different groups about performance and about sourcing information for how are you going to think about how you're using stage space, because there's not a lot of it out there. And I've taught at quite a few universities where I've been the only musician on faculty who has a background in movement and stage space. Sometimes you're lucky, you might have someone who's got music theatre background, but that's quite a different proposition to be creating movement for single songs. There's a guy in the US who does some stuff, Tom Jackson, whose work is worth checking out. He's come out to Australia recently. But what I notice in groups, what I notice as a fan of music is I really want to be transported. I really want some vulnerability from people on stage, and I find this the biggest challenge for myself too as a musician, to find that place of vulnerability so that I can share something meaningful with the audience. Because if we're stuck in that place of looking good, we're never going to connect with the audience, because that's not our place of humanness, that's not our place of art, or I understand how you feel, that's not the place of our feeling connection. And there's a songwriting coach who teaches stuff online from Berkeley in the US, and there's a great thing that he said, Pat Patterson. He does free online songwriting courses. Yeah. I really encourage you, Coursera runs them, really encourage you to get into songwriting. I feel that if we're to grow as a community in a cappella, we need to be creating our own content rather than just being a quirky covers thing. Oh look, they have no instruments. You know, it's like, wow, how can you artistically take that space? Creativity is goaded by restrictions. And we have certain restrictions when we're only using voices. So what kind of music can we create that's going to be goaded by that restriction? But Pat, background is in philosophy, and he said that Aristotle says that every great work of art has every element supporting every other element. And I think that is something really worthwhile for us as performers, that our stage, our face, our body, all needs to support the same information when we're singing a song. And I see a lot of performers where the physical information is telling a different story than the emotion of the song. Often the guys from the exchange say something fun, which is, if you're happy and you know it, tell your face. Because often as singers we are concentrating, we're thinking, I have to sing this very difficult passage, is coming up, and we're looking like this, and we're like, I'm singing a love song. Really love you and very happy about it, yes. So I feel that one of the things is just to video yourselves, and there were lots of things that I saw even in the competition that I thought that could have been resolved if you'd seen what you were going to look like on a stage space in a video beforehand. I was in an a cappella group, and we made a point of rehearsing in front of mirrors and rehearsing in front of video so that we had an opportunity to see what the audience would see before the audience saw it. It's getting your insides to match your outsides, and not even necessarily that, because I see lots of singing competitions where they say, you didn't feel that, I didn't feel that, and they say, oh yeah, I felt it. And I think, you didn't have what we call paralinguistics, so the things that are with language that we do actually a lot of, particularly in contemporary music, lots of sob sounds, lots of incidental sounds that give us a sense of emotion. So they didn't have the paralinguistics in the sound, and they didn't have the body language that supported it. If I can pass on one thing today, it's that, and again I'm stealing this from Pat Patterson, because there's a lot of things in songwriting that are relevant to, lots of things in other art forms that transfer really well. And that is that when we have to make a decision, am I stable in this song? So when I'm stable, what do I look like? I look strong, I'm a stable structure, I might be confident, or I might be, sort of thinking, yep, I'm right here, I'm stable. What does unstable look like? So unstable is going to collapse some of those things. Unstable might be this. one of the biggest tips I gave, actually Chris from the Exchange, was he was singing a really vulnerable thing with a really big note, and as singers we work really hard to get control over our voices, so it actually doesn't cost us much. And I said to him, that needs to cost you, that needs to look like that costs you. And I saw them perform just recently, and in his big note, he was right down, making it look like that really costs me. Yeah. As someone who does both voice and movement, I find that to begin with, singers get very distracted with movement. There are two things that are really helpful with it. One of them is it actually opens your voice up to give more of the emotive qualities that we need to communicate with an audience. So even though you feel like it's going to be more cognitive load, it's going to be one more thing to think about, the place to think about that is not on stage for the first time. Your adrenaline is up. When your adrenaline is up, the blood drains from your brain and goes into your major muscle groups. So biceps, thighs, great if you're in a shark attack, really fantastic. Our brain, we don't want to be, when we're in, Nick Fanning was attacking the shark, you don't want to be thinking, what's a new and creative way to fend off a shark, yeah? You want to go straight into instinct with a lot of power. Our brains aren't very sophisticated. I read about it recently saying it's like we've got a kind of a bad renovation in our brains, that each section of our brain as it evolved just kind of did a workaround. So it's like we've got the pipes, instead of going under the ground, they go over the ceiling, which means that they freeze in winter. And for us, it's that our brain can't tell the difference between being cut off in traffic, being in front of an audience, and being under a shark attack. So you might imagine that's not your best time to think creatively. So you want everything you can to be practiced into your system. So that is from where you go to the spot on stage, to what's happening in your face, your gesture. You're going to plan that out before it's happening. I have some performers saying, won't that be contrived? And the answer is, that's like saying it would be contrived to learn your piece really well. So if you learn your piece really well, you have the opportunity to be in the moment and interact with the audience. So I really encourage you to plan something. And the other thing that you do when you don't plan is you end up in a default position, which either gives us a signal of how your adrenaline is raised, so we do things that make us look nervous, or there are quite a lot of performances where it was just park and bark, or stand and deliver, where we're just going, my best choice here is to just stand and sing this song. And the gesture that drove me bananas over and over again was, I mean it. I really, really mean it. I really mean it. I really mean it. And the thing is, it's very empty, and because it's repetitive, it actually makes you look insincere. It's like, you really mean it. What do you mean? Do you mean that you're excited? Do you mean that you're sad? What does your body do in those spaces? Yeah, so I hope that's a good start.
Thank you, Zerafina.